Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, let's talk about something real today: life. Not just any life, but your life. You, the one who's been grinding, pushing, striving, and maybe even struggling, thinking that time is slipping away. But let me tell you something. Your story is just getting started. See, there's a myth out there, a lie that's been told over and over again. It says that success, greatness, purpose, they belong to the young. That if you haven't made it by 30, it's too late. But I'm here to tell you the truth. The real journey, the real power, it begins at 40. Why? Because at 40, you're no longer guessing. You're no longer playing someone else's game. You've learned, you've been tested, you've been through fire, and now you're stepping into your purpose with wisdom, with strength, and with clarity. So let me give you 8 reasons why the life of a chosen one truly begins at 40. Number 1, you know who you are at 20. You're still figuring out life. You're chasing dreams that might not even be yours. You're trying to fit in, trying to impress, trying to prove yourself. You look around and it seems like everyone has an opinion on who you should be. Your parents, your teachers, your friends, even society, they all have expectations and you do your best to live up to them. But deep down, there's a little voice inside you asking, who am I really? By 30, you've gained some experience, you've had victories, you've had failures, you've started to see what works and what doesn't. But there's still that lingering pressure to have it all figured out. You might have built a career, a family, a life that looks successful on the outside, but inside, you may still be wondering if it's truly your path or just the one you thought you were supposed to follow. But at 40, something shifts. By now, you've been through enough to know yourself. You faced struggles that tested you, losses that shaped you, and experiences that refined you. You no longer need validation from the world. You no longer need permission to be who you are. The masks come off. The doubts fade, and for the first time you own your truth. You stop playing small, you stop molding yourself to fit someone else's version of success. You realize that all the things you used to worry about, what people think, whether you're measuring up, whether you're doing life right, none of that really matters. Because you understand that there is no right way, there is only your way. This is the age where you stop apologizing for who you are. If you're bold, you embrace it. If you're quiet, you own it. If you've got big dreams, you chase them without hesitation. If you love something, you pour your heart into it without fear. You no longer try to be everything to everyone. You simply be yourself. And here's the beautiful thing about that. When you fully step into who you are, you start to attract the right things into your life. The right people, the right opportunities, the right energy, because now you're no longer chasing things that were never meant for you. You're aligned with your true path. You also stop being so hard on yourself. You forgive yourself for past mistakes because you see them for what they were: lessons. You stop doubting whether you're good enough because you recognize that you always were. You stop waiting for the perfect time to go after what you want because you realize that now is the perfect time. This confidence doesn't come from arrogance. It comes from experience. It comes from knowing that you have faced storms and survived, that you have been knocked down and risen again, that you have seen your own strength in moments when you thought you had none left. And because of this, you walk differently, you speak differently, you move differently. You no longer ask, can I do this? Instead, you say, I was made for this. So when people tell you that life slows down at 40, don't believe them. Because in reality, life begins at 40. This is the age where you stop living for others and start living for yourself. The age where you stop searching for your identity and finally embrace it. The age where you step fully into your power, and that's when life truly begins. Number 2, you have experience, not just ambition. When you're young, ambition is everything. You dream big, you chase success, and you believe that sheer willpower can take you anywhere. And sometimes it does. But more often than not, ambition without experience leads to mistakes. Some small, some painful, and some that knock you flat on your back. At 20, you think you know the game. You set goals, you hustle, you put in the work. But what you lack is perspective. You haven't yet seen how unpredictable life can be. You haven't yet faced the disappointments that will refine you. You haven't yet learned that success isn't just about effort, it's about wisdom. By 30, you've been through enough to realize that things don't always go as planned. Maybe you started a business that didn't work out. Maybe you followed a career path that didn't fulfill you. Maybe you invested time in people who didn't value you. You've tasted failure, but you're still ambitious, still pushing forward, still trying to prove yourself. But at 40, that's when everything changes. By now, you don't just have ambition, you have experience. And experience is what separates the dreamers from the doers, the hopeful from the wise, the amateurs from the masters. Experience teaches you how to win. It teaches you what battles are worth fighting and which ones aren't. It teaches you that success isn't about running the fastest, but about lasting the longest. It teaches you that talent can open doors, but wisdom keeps them open. When you're young, you think you have to say yes to every opportunity. You chase every shiny thing that looks like success. But by 40, you've learned the power of discernment. You know what aligns with your purpose and what doesn't. You don't waste time on things that don't serve you. You don't chase validation anymore, you chase impact. And let's talk about failure for a second. At 20, failure feels like the end of the world. At 30, it still stings. But by 40, you understand failure. You see it for what it really is, a teacher. You realize that every setback prepared you, every wrong turn guided you, every disappointment made you stronger. And because of that, you stop fearing failure. You stop hesitating. You move with confidence because you know that no matter what happens, you will figure it out. There's a saying, a fool with a plan will beat a genius without one. But let's take it a step further. A person with experience will always have the advantage. Why? Because they don't rely on luck. They don't rely on guesswork. They don't rely on empty motivation. They rely on knowledge. You've seen people rise and fall. You've watched businesses boom and crash. You've witnessed relationships thrive and collapse. And all of this has given you something priceless. Understanding. You see patterns. You recognize warning signs. You know what works and what doesn't, not because you read about it, but because you lived it. And this is why life begins at 40. Because now when you move with intention. When you speak with authority. When you work with strategy. You no longer waste energy proving yourself. You know what you bring to the table. Ambition can get you started, but experience is what carries you to the finish line. And at 40, you're not just running anymore. You're leading. You're thriving. You're winning. Number 3, you stop caring about the opinions of others. For most of your life, you've been conditioned to seek approval. As a child, you wanted to make your parents proud. As a teenager, you wanted to fit in. As a young adult, you wanted to impress the world. Your boss, your friends, maybe even strangers on social media. You shaped your decisions based on what other people might think. You played it safe to avoid judgment. You held back your dreams because you were afraid of failure, not because of failure itself, but because of how people would see you if you failed. That's the trap, the invisible cage that keeps so many people from stepping into their true potential. At 20, you care too much. You hesitate before making a bold move because someone might disapprove. You shrink yourself to fit into circles that were never meant for you. You let the opinions of people who don't even know your struggle dictate how you live your life. By 30, you're still somewhat concerned with how the world sees you. Maybe you've achieved some success, but you still feel the pressure to maintain an image. You hesitate to take risks because people might talk. You still find yourself wondering, what will they think? But at 40, you're free, because by now, you've realized something powerful. People's opinions don't pay your bills. They don't live your life, and they sure as hell don't define your worth. You've spent years worrying about how others perceive you, only to realize that most of them weren't even thinking about you in the first place. People are too busy dealing with their own struggles, their own insecurities, their own battles, to be constantly judging you. And even if they are, so what? By 40, you understand that criticism is inevitable. No matter what you do, someone will have something to say. If you take risks, they'll call you reckless. If you play it safe, they'll call you unambitious. If you succeed, they'll envy you. If you fail, they'll mock you. So why waste energy trying to please people who will never be satisfied? This is the age where you stop explaining yourself, you stop justifying your choices, you stop apologizing for being who you are. You no longer feel the need to prove your worth because you know your worth. And when that happens, life opens up in ways you never imagined. You start making decisions based on what you want, not what others expect. You start setting boundaries, saying no to things that drain you. You stop surrounding yourself with people who bring negativity into your life. You walk away from meaningless conversations, toxic relationships, and environments that no longer serve you. Not because you're bitter, but because you've grown. And here's the thing. When you stop caring about people's opinions, you actually become more respected because confidence is magnetic. When you stand in your truth without seeking approval, the right people will be drawn to you. The wrong ones will fade away. That's why life truly begins at 40. Because this is when you start living for yourself, not for society, not for your family's expectations, not for the approval of strangers. You step into your power. You embrace your authenticity. You move forward with courage, knowing that the only voice that truly matters is your own. And that, my friend, is freedom. Number 4, you understand the value of time. Number 5, you understand the value of time. When you're young, time feels infinite. You think you have all the time in the world to figure things out, to chase your dreams, to become the person you want to be. You waste hours, days, even years on things that don't truly matter, proving yourself to the wrong people, chasing things that don't align with your purpose, putting off what's truly important because you believe there's always tomorrow. At 20, you're reckless with time. You stay in situations that drain you, thinking you'll make a change someday. You waste energy on relationships that don't serve you, thinking you have time to find something better later. You procrastinate on your goals, telling yourself you'll start next year or the year after that. By 30, you start feeling the weight of time. You realize that a decade has passed in the blink of an eye. You begin to recognize the mistakes you made, the time you lost, the opportunities you let slip away. But still, there's that lingering belief that there's plenty of time left. You tell yourself, I still have years to get serious about my dreams. I still have time to fix my mistakes. But at 40, that's when everything shifts. At 40, you no longer assume this time, you respect it. You understand that time is not promised. You've seen too much. You've lost people. You've watched years pass realizing that every single moment matters. You no longer waste time on things that drain you. You no longer give your energy to things that don't align with your purpose. You stop making excuses because you understand that later is not guaranteed. You become intentional. You guard your time the way a king guards his kingdom. You stop answering every call, responding to every message, attending every event. You stop entertaining meaningless conversations and start focusing on what truly moves your life forward. You no longer say, I'll do it next year. You say, I'll do it now, because you've learned that next year turns into 5 years. And 5 years turns into regret. At 40, you start cutting out distractions. You recognize that not everything deserves your attention. You stop scrolling mindlessly, watching other people live their lives while neglecting your own. You stop investing time in people who bring nothing but negativity and drama into your world. You stop trying to save people who don't want to be saved. You start moving differently. You wake up with a purpose. You set goals and actually follow through. You stop saying, I'll start working out next month. You stop saying, I'll start my business when I have more time. You stop saying, I'll travel when the timing is perfect, because you understand there is no perfect time. At 40, you stop letting life happen to you. You take control of your time. You invest it in growth and learning, in things that make you better. You spend it with people who inspire you, who uplift you, who bring peace instead of stress. And because of that, your life starts to change. This is why life truly begins at 40, because now you don't just exist, you live. You don't just dream, you act. You don't just wait for the future, you create it. And that is the difference between those who waste time and those who master it. Number 5, you develop unshakable faith. When you're young, faith is often something you talk about, but not something you fully understand. You believe things will work out, but deep down there's still doubt. You hope for success, but you still look over your shoulder, wondering if failure is right behind you. You trust in yourself, but the moment something goes wrong, you start questioning everything. At 20, faith is fragile. It's based on things going right. If life is smooth, you feel strong. If things get tough, you start wondering, why me? Why is this happening? Maybe I'm not meant for this. You haven't yet been tested enough to know what true faith looks like. By 30, you've experienced setbacks, but faith is still something you struggle with. You might believe in yourself, but you still let fear creep in. You believe in your dreams, but if the road gets too difficult, you hesitate. You pray, but you still carry doubt in the back of your mind. But by 40, you have seen too much. You have been through storms and survived. You have lost things you thought you couldn't live without, and yet you're still here. You have faced failures that should have broken you, but instead they built you. And because of that, your faith is no longer something you talk about, it's something you live. At 40, faith is no longer based on circumstances. You don't just believe when things are good, you believe no matter what. You don't need to see the whole staircase, you take the first step knowing the rest will appear. You don't panic when things go wrong because you understand that every challenge, every delay, every setback is part of a greater plan. You have seen how life works. You've had moments where you thought you wouldn't make it, but you did. You've had seasons of struggle that turned into blessings. You've watched doors close only to find better ones open later. At 40, you stop questioning if things will work out. You know they will. This kind of faith makes you unstoppable. You no longer waste time worrying about what ifs. You don't let fear control your actions. You don't second guess every decision. You move with confidence because you know that whatever happens, you will handle it. This is the kind of faith that keeps you going when others quit. It's the kind of faith that allows you to take risks without fear. It's the kind of faith that makes people look at you and wonder, how do they stay so strong? At 40, you stop needing constant reassurance from the world. You don't look to other people for validation. You don't wait for perfect conditions before you make a move. You trust that everything is happening exactly as it's supposed to. And because of that, you carry a peace that most people never find. This is why life begins at 40, because now you are no longer controlled by fear, doubt, or hesitation. You walk with unshakable faith, knowing that no matter what happens, you are built for it. And that kind of faith, that's what moves mountains. Number 6, you have real connections, not just contacts. When you're young, it feels like the more people you know, the better. You collect numbers, add friends on social media, and network with anyone who might open a door for you. You think success is about how many contacts you have, how many people recognize your name, how many invitations you receive. You chase popularity thinking it equals power. At 20, you surround yourself with a crowd, but how many of those people truly know you? How many of them would stand by you when life gets hard? How many of them care about your growth, your happiness, your well-being? The truth is, most of them are just there for the good times, for the opportunities, for what they can get. But when you need real support, silence. By 30, you start realizing that not all friendships are built to last. Some people fade away, some betray your trust, and some relationships become more of a burden than a blessing. You start seeing the difference between those who are in your life for you and those who are there for their own benefit. But at 40, you don't care about numbers anymore. You care about authenticity. You don't need 100 acquaintances. You need real connections. You need people who have seen you struggle and still stand by your side. You need people who celebrate your success without jealousy. People who call you out when you're wrong, lift you up when you're down, and remind you of your worth when you forget. At 40, your circle may be smaller, but it's stronger. You no longer waste time with surface level relationships. You don't entertain fake friendships. You don't chase approval from people who would even notice if you disappeared. You value depth over quantity, and because of that, your relationships mean something. Your conversations are richer, your connections are deeper, and your time is spent with people who truly matter. You stop tolerating energy-draining, one-sided relationships. You stop giving your time to people who only come around when they need something. You invest in relationships that feed your soul, not drain it. And here's the best part. Because you've been through enough to recognize real from fake, the relationships you build now are stronger than ever. Whether it's friendships, family, or love, the people in your life at 40 are there for the long haul. This is why life truly begins at 40, because now you're not wasting time on meaningless interactions. You're not maintaining connections out of obligation. You're not afraid to walk away from relationships that no longer serve you. You surround yourself with people who matter, and in doing so, you create a life filled with love, trust, and real connection, and that is worth more than any number in your contact list. Number 7, you're no longer afraid to start over. When you're young, the idea of starting over feels terrifying. You put so much pressure on yourself to get it right the first time. You think that if you fail, if you make the wrong choice, if life takes an unexpected turn, it means you've wasted time. At 20, you're afraid to take risks because you don't want to lose the progress you've made. You stay in situations that no longer serve you, jobs, relationships, environments, because the thought of walking away feels like throwing away years of effort. You tell yourself, I've already invested too much to start over now. By 30, you've experienced enough setbacks to realize that life doesn't always go as planned. Maybe you've had to change careers. Maybe you've been through a breakup, a divorce, or financial struggles. You've learned that failure is part of the process, but deep down you still fear the idea of rebuilding. You hesitate. You question yourself. You wonder if you're too old to start fresh. But at 40, you embrace starting over, because now you understand something powerful. Starting over is not a step back, it's a step forward. By 40, you've seen that life is full of unexpected twists. You've watched people rebuild from nothing and come back stronger. You've witnessed your own resilience in moments when you thought you had nothing left. You know that no matter how many times you have to start over, you will always find a way to rise. At this age, you no longer see change as something to fear. You see it as an opportunity. You're no longer afraid to walk away from what isn't working. You don't stay in toxic relationships just because of history. You don't hold on to careers that make you miserable just because you spent years climbing the ladder. You don't cling to an old version of yourself just because it's familiar. You trust yourself. You trust that if you have to rebuild, you'll do it better this time. You trust that every setback is a setup for something greater. You trust that new beginnings are not signs of failure, but signs of growth. At 40, you stop making decisions based on fear. You start making them based on freedom. You stop settling for less than you deserve because you know you have the power to create something better. And here's the truth. Some of the most successful, fulfilled, and happy people didn't figure it out in their 20s or 30s. Some of the greatest stories of reinvention, success, and happiness happened when people dared to start over at 40, 50, or even 60. This is why life begins at 40. Because now you understand that it's never too late. You don't let the past define you. You don't let fear control you. You embrace change, knowing that every new beginning is a chance to build something even greater. And that is the kind of mindset that leads to true success. Number 8, you step into your purpose. For most of your life, you've been searching for something. Your purpose, that deeper reason for why you're here, that thing that makes you wake up with passion, that gives your life meaning beyond just surviving, beyond just making money, beyond just going through the motions. At 20, you think you know what you want. You chase dreams, career paths, and goals that seem exciting, that seem like the right move. But most of it is influenced by what society expects from you. You pick a career because it looks good on paper. You follow trends because that's what everyone else is doing. You measure success by how much money you make, how many people approve of you, how well you fit in. By 30, you start questioning. You may have achieved some of your goals, but something still feels missing. You might be successful, but are you fulfilled? You might have checked all the boxes: good job, stable income, a respectable life. But does it truly light you up inside, or are you just doing what you think you're supposed to do? At 40, you know. By now, you've lived enough to understand what truly matters. You've experienced enough to see what excites you, what drains you, what fulfills you, and what wastes your time. You've gone through enough ups and downs to separate what the world wants for you from what you want for yourself. And that's when you finally step into your purpose. Your purpose is not just about making a living, it's about making a difference. It's about doing what aligns with your soul, what brings out your best, what makes you feel alive. It's about serving in a way that only you can. At 40, you stop chasing dreams that don't belong to you. You stop living for other people's expectations. You stop looking outside yourself for validation. Instead, you trust yourself. You lean into the things that bring you fulfillment. You start building a life that aligns with who you are meant to be. And here's the thing, when you step into your purpose, everything shifts. Your energy changes, your confidence grows, the right opportunities start finding you, the right people start entering your life. You no longer feel like you're searching for meaning, you're living it. This is why life truly begins at 40, because now you're not just existing, you're thriving. You're not just working, you're creating. You're not just going through the motions, you're walking in your destiny. And that is the difference between just living and truly fulfilling your purpose. So if you're 40 or approaching it or even past it, let this be your reminder. You are not running out of time. You are stepping into your prime. The best years of your life are not behind you. They are ahead of you. This is the moment where you stop doubting yourself, where you stop holding back, where you say, this is my time, this is my season. Because a chosen one doesn't peak in their 20s, a chosen one rises at 40. So stand tall, move forward, and walk boldly into the greatness that is waiting for you. The world hasn't seen your best yet, but it's about to. Keep that in mind.